Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ever After Academy's Wedding 101 panel. Tonight is all about giving you the inside scoop from wedding pros who have seen it all. So you can plan the wedding that you want with confidence and enjoy the journey ahead. These are also the professionals that you will engage with first as you plan your wedding. So joining us are these amazing panelists. First, Sheavonne Harris, a wedding planner who helps couples turn vision into reality while staying sane in the process. Next is Jules Miller, a venue consultant who knows all the ins and the outs about finding the perfect space for your big day. And we also have Justin McCallum, a photographer who captures the moments that become your lifelong memories. And I am Hope Mirlis, founder of Ever After Academy. I am also a premarital counselor and a wedding officiant through my business, A More Perfect Union. I am not one of the first vendors booked, therefore I will be moderating tonight's panel. However, I am here if anybody has any questions about the ceremony. For those attending, if you have any questions along the way, please add them to the Q&A. I will monitor that as well as the chat. I do not see any questions in the chat, so I think we should start. Panelists, any questions from you? All right. Want to start with some lightning round questions, starting with you, Sheavonne. Beverage of choice on the wedding morning.
Beverage of choice wedding morning seems to always be champagne or prosecco. Something sparkling always seems to be a beverage of choice.
For
For the
you?
couples, are you talking about for myself? Oh,
No,
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 for
for
myself.
you.
Oh, no, this all day, every day. From the moment that I wake up, it's just water, water, water until I leave. And then I'm on site and it's more water because once things get going, I won't be able to grab this bottle anymore. So it's water. I thought you were talking about for the bride and the groom. They always
No,
go
for
for something sparkling. I go for the water. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
thank you. Jules, how about you?
Oh, I am also a big water hydrator all day, but I also need an iced oat chai to start for a little kick.
Justin, how about you?
Same order as Jules, and iced oat chai is what gets me going every day. But the most important drink is later in the wedding day because I love a Shirley Temple, and that is probably the highlight of every wedding for me is being able to go up to any bar and order that.
I love that. Good for you, Justin. I'm coming to you, Jules. What is usually the first thing that you notice when you walk into a wedding?
Oh, if it's silent or not. So I have, obviously on the venue side, I've seen quite a few weddings. And if the DJ or the band are not playing music as guests arrive, I think it sort of sets a tone where they are walking into a room of like, am I here too early? It doesn't feel very festive. So to me, it is, obviously that everything is set and ready, on all of my venue timelines, we have it that we're set at half an hour. I'm sure Sheavonne agrees, like half an hour before guest arrival time. But to make sure to like contract that in with your ceremony musicians to start playing a half an hour before guest arrival too. So there is music when people walk in the door.
Awesome. Thank you. Justin, how about you?
I'm lucky enough that I often get to the marriers earlier in the day, whether it's them getting ready or a first look or something like that. And usually in the first like 90 seconds, you can read the like energy level and tone of what's happening, whether it's like completely overcome with anxiety, something's amiss, or we're just like vibing, having the best time. And then that's a great opportunity to either come in and be like, cool, this could use like a little bit of a pump up. Let's check in and see how everyone's feeling, or just feed on that energy, be like, yes, it's time to celebrate.
Great. Sheavonne, how about you? First thing that you notice when you walk into a wedding?
The first thing I notice when I walk into a wedding, where I'm always one of the earlier vendors to arrive, something out of place. I'm always quick to notice something that is out of place or something that should be there that's not there. So those are a couple of the first things that I notice when I walk into a wedding.
Awesome. Going to you, Justin, first. What do you think is the first thing that a couple should focus on once they get engaged?
Ooh, once they get engaged, first off, I think they should always take some time before the craziness of wedding planning starts, to like appreciate that also incredible time in their relationship and unique experience. But then I think setting, not only like people want to set a budget, a date, everything like that. I think when folks really figure out what values they want to bring into the wedding day and what they want to prioritize, whether it's their experiences, guest experiences, anything like that, and what is core to them, then can guide the rest of the wedding planning and inform the rest of the many, many, many decisions ahead of them.
Mm. Sheavonne, how about you? First thing that couple should focus on?
First thing she should focus on, just a little bit the same as what Justin said. I think they should kind of focus on what kind of experience they want to have for that day before they even move into the guest experience. Think about how they want to spend that day, how they want to spend that morning, that afternoon, that evening. And then once they kind of have an idea of how they want to spend that day, then start thinking about who do you want to spend that day with. Whether that's where you start to build out your wedding party, if you decide to have a wedding party. And then, for the guests, like, do you really want a wedding that has 100 guests? You maybe want something a little bit more intimate for what it is that you want to experience. So yes, just start thinking about what it is that you want for that day, and then start thinking about who do you want to include in that day.
Lovely. Jules, how about you? Something that the couple should focus on first thing.
Well, I would say it could be focusing on what you don't want because it can help you narrow down your search. Like I was, obviously venue were a lot of times the first place that people, inquire with. And sometimes, I've talked to couples that have seen 50, 60 venues and others that are like, we're looking at 4 and that is that. So like, I think it's also, if you definitely know you don't want a hotel ballroom, great. That knocks a bunch off of your list. If you definitely know you don't care if it's outside, great. Like focus on, you can focus on indoor spaces. So I think sometimes that can help narrow down because I think couples feel so overwhelmed. There's so much coming at them. It's not like when we started where it was just, style me pretty and then not. Now it's Instagram and Pinterest and TikTok and everything. And I think sometimes that can be easier to sort of weed out the no's first before you can start narrowing down what's important to you.
I love that. Thank you. I would love to give each of you a little bit more time to share something that maybe all couples need to know before they reach out to you, or something that you really share with each of the couples that find you, or each of the marriers that find you. Feel free to share your business name, your pronouns, as well as how many years you've been in the industry. Sheavonne, let's start with you.
Okay, great. Yeah, my pronouns are she and her. It's Sheavonne Harris, Events by Sheavonne. I've been in this industry for 2 decades, believe it or not, 2 decades. One of the things that we do is that it's planning, event management, also known as day of coordination. One of the things I think that couples should think about when they're approaching us or any planning team is exactly how much or how little do they want to be involved in the planning process. That can make a good determination as to what type of planner they need. If they are looking for someone who's going to be, very hands-on so they can be very hands-off, then they need to look for a full-time planner that offer those services. If they're a heavy DIY couple, we just want to do it all, but we just want to be hands-off, then those are the couples who need more of a logistics person, event management person, which is day of coordinator, which I know we're trying to get rid of the term day of coordinator and it's more of month of coordinator. But definitely they should think about exactly how they want to be involved in this process. Do they want to have the task of finding their own vendors, or do they want to task someone else to do that for them? The same thing with location for venues. Venue is one of the biggest parts of the planning process because, as Jules said, you got to think about the things that you don't want and look for those in a venue versus also things that you do want. And so are they looking for someone to just kind of come in and take that over, just to say, here, these are your wants, these are your don't wants, these are the locations that I think will be great for you? Or do they want to kind of take on that task of all that scouting and research on their own? So definitely think about what parts of themselves they want to include in the planning process and how much time they also have to include in that planning process.
So if you would like to release day of coordinator from our vernacular, what would you prefer?
Honestly, I technically don't have a problem with day of coordinator. There are a lot of other people who have a problem with day of coordinator. So I don't mind the day of tag, even though it's not the day of. It is technically for us. We start working with you a month out. So event management, can be another task. But I just think day of coordinator just kind of just rolls off the tongue so well, and it's just been around for so long. It's kind of hard to get rid of. I don't mind it. There are people out in the industry who mind it a lot. Let's just say that.
Noted. You've kind of already started to go there. So Jules would love to go over to you. So feel free to share your business name as well, pronouns, and how many years you've been in the industry.
Okay, my pronouns are she, her. My business is the Revelry Cooperative, and I have been in the industry for almost 18 years. I've had this business for almost 8. And so I do consulting and management for venues. So typically venues hire me when they're building out to make sure that they are a desirable space for clients. So sometimes they're, before they've broken ground on a space, and other times it's they already have a functioning space and they want to figure out how to utilize it for private events. And then I can go continue my relationship with them and manage all their events for them too. So I'm sort of A, creating the space, hopefully for couples to enjoy, and then B, working with them along the way. So that is how we work. But then occasionally I also do venue scouting for clients as well. So sometimes couples will reach out to me and say they are looking for a venue, and I can help them sort of parse through and ask a lot of, sort of their style, their budget, what their, the most important things to them, and help try to navigate that process with them if they're not working with a full planner.
So a question just came in from Sherry for you, Jules. She asked, what are some hidden costs or restrictions at venues that we should know about?
Well, my venues, we are very transparent. We don't do hidden costs. We make sure they are all outlined. So you're not getting hit a month before the event with some admin fee or oh, you want to use these forks, it's an extra cost. I always will say, read your contract very carefully. And if it's a one-page contract and you don't have itemized things, I have a space in all of my venue contracts that has space specifications, and that I joke with my venue owners. I'm I want it down to we include the toilet paper, so that you don't have to bring that in with you. So I think some venues do have a lot of hidden costs, oh, you want a porter, that's extra. You want to use the in-house furniture, that's extra. You want this, that's extra. My advice when I'm consulting with venues is charge what you want, make it all inclusive. And then, specialty that I was way out of, what I had one couple that wanted to move all the furniture out of the lounge of a hotel that I work with. Well, then we charge a labor fee, but that's a one-off thing that's not included. But I would say if there are vague descriptions and they're telling you that everything is included, get an itemized list in your contract of all of those things that are included. And I mean, not forks, I mean 200 forks, or, not ceremony chairs, 200 ceremony chairs.
So sometimes there may be some questions about, what you do from the venue side, as well as Sheavonne, what you do from the planning side. Jules, anything that you may want to share here, and then I'll throw it back to you, Sheavonne.
Sure. So, I mean, I get that question a lot from couples, and obviously it depends on what level of planner they're working with. So I require at least a month of coordinator at all of my venues, and I'm very vocal about make sure that there's somebody that's starting 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time, that they're finalizing your timeline for you, they're getting your COIs for you, they're communicating with vendors for you. But obviously having a lot of experience and then being the person that's at the venue and has seen the most events happen at that venue, there's a lot of overlap. So, I love working with planners who are great at their job and coordinators who are great at their job. But what I usually say is I'm handling everything on the venue side. So anything venue related, you come to me for, I'm making sure that the lights are working, that the caterers know where to load in, where the trash goes. And then your coordinator or planner is the one who's making sure the cake arrives on time, that you're ready for your first look, all the personal things, but we work very closely together. So there's, I don't think any of us in our business who have been doing this for a long time would ever say that's not my job. And so, if you need help putting escort cards out because you're crunched for time because the bride is running late because she had a meltdown over her dress, fine. Like I'm happy to help you do that. If and vice versa. Like when we change over a space for a dance floor, planners will kick in and help us. So while there's a lot of overlap, I try to delineate between like I always say, I'm like, if you're about to walk down the aisle and a fuse goes out in the kitchen and it's time to cue your ceremony, I can't do both of those things. I do the kitchen, your planner does the ceremony. So making sure that venue ops are covered is where I'm needed most. So
What's a COI?
a certificate of insurance that we require for all vendors to make sure if somebody hurts themselves that nobody is getting sued or being blamed, or if a florist falls on a ladder, that their insurance is covering it and that they can't come after the venue. So
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, all terms are clear, especially
yeah.
for folks who may not have heard that term before. Sheavonne, anything else to share from that idea of, how you play with venue?
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's definitely a collaboration. Like we love when we do have a venue coordinator, venue manager on site that we can collaborate with, because there is a somewhere where the duties tend to split, where they have to focus on the venue, they have to focus on what's going on in-house. They cannot manage your glam schedule for you. They cannot work with Justin to make sure that timeline for the photos are on point. So one of the things that I like to really be clear about is the misconception that a venue coordinator is also the same as your wedding coordinator. We play two separate roles. The venue coordinator is there for the venue, 1000% for the venue. Myself and my team, we are there for you to work alongside the venue and making sure that your day goes smoothly. So for instance, when the cake arrives, of course, Jules' team, they'll accept the cake and they'll tell you where to put it at in the walk-in fridge, but it's up to us to let Jules know when the cake is arriving. All right, that's our job. When it comes to those, flowers, if Justin wants to capture some pictures or some detail shots or some flat lay, he's going to need those flowers to be available at a certain time at the getting ready location. Your venue coordinator is not going to take care of that for you. Once again, that is where we come in. So we are the ones that are with you through literally everything in regards to your wedding day. We don't have a lot of things where we are off limits. If the venue is, crunched for time and there's a transition going on, all right, me, a couple of my team members will get in, we'll move some chairs around, we'll move some things around. So it's definitely a collaboration, but couples need to be very, very clear in the responsibilities of the venue coordinator and their wedding coordinator.
Awesome. Thank you. Super clear. Really appreciate that.
Of course.
Justin, would love to throw it over to you. Feel free to share pronouns as well as how many years you've been in the industry.
Amazing. Hey, everybody. Again, my name is Justin McCallum of Justin McCallum Photography. I use he or they pronouns, or really anything said with respect. And I started photographing weddings in 2010, which makes me feel super old, as does all this gray hair. But then really started like my own business in about 2017. And are we just talking on things people should know before they hop into the process of everything?
Yeah, especially you may have couples that come to you or marriers that come to you in very different periods of time. They may come to you for engagement shoots
Mm-hmm.
or proposals
Yeah,
before you even look at the wedding. So totally up to you
absolutely.
about maybe something that you've heard recently that you feel everyone should know.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that people should know also before they even begin thinking about the photography end of everything is also how they're going to feel about a camera being in their face at any point during any of these very intimate, exciting, personal moments. I think it's always very interesting, especially with photographing proposals, of one person will feel that it's very clear that the other partner wants this moment documented, but then they'll freeze up because of this extra inclusion, or they'll be just incredibly different values on whether or not they care about photography, how much time they want to dedicate to it, all these different things. So I think checking with yourself and your partner and knowing what you want there is really, really helpful. And the other thing that I just wish people also really knew was, since they do come to photographers often later within the wedding planning process, is they don't necessarily know that most wedding photography packages, even just like engagement sessions or proposals, are all based around timing and how much coverage you actually want on any of those occasions. And people can ask for a quote for me and say, cool, I start around 5 hours for a wedding day, but that quote is going to be very different if you then want 11 hours of coverage with a second photographer and an engagement session beforehand. So then for people to even be able to give an accurate quote or to be able to talk through really what experience you could provide or what experience marriers want in any of those processes, then they need to kind of have a rough idea of how much time they're actually going to devote to that and how much they want to dedicate to that too. Because there's the number of times where one partner doesn't value photography as much or only wants to dedicate like 20 minutes to those photos while their partner is like, oh, I could spend 2 hours showing off how fantastic I look and having all those memories because we paid for this beautiful location that Jules found, or Sheavonne has set up this beautiful space. But knowing also just how much time you want to dedicate to it, I think, is something that folks completely overlook.
That's super helpful. Question just came in for you from Michael. Do you have any advice for couples who feel awkward in front of the camera?
Always. Personally, I'm a weirdo and I like people who are awkward in front of the camera. I think you can get a lot more authentic moments that way from people who are like, I know my angles. I'm going to pose this way. I saw this in Vogue. But when folks feel uncomfortable in front of the camera, the most important thing is finding ways to get out of your head. A really good photographer will help you do that, whether with prompts or things to connect you with your partner again and things like that. But then also advocating, I think, for yourself is really, really helpful. Any photographer can get really excited. I get really excited, especially because I just get so pumped when people look really fantastic and are having such a good time. But if you say you need a minute, tell us that. We will absolutely respect that. When you say, okay, I'm overstimulated, absolutely go take a break. Or if you're saying something like, I don't know what to do with my hands, I feel awkward, where do I look? Always just ask those questions. Especially the biggest thing I always tell people, no one knows what to do with their hands. If you're in love with somebody that you're getting pictures with them, touch them a little bit, bring them in close, always show that affection. Or if you are someone who's lucky enough to have a pocket, always slide your hand in, but leave your thumb out. It makes you look really cool.
Why? What is that? This
Oh,
is
it's just casual and sleek. It kind of gives like James Bond. It's really fun.
that's awesome. Thank you, friends. I have a question for any or all of you, but because you kind of are at the forefront of timing, would love to hear if you see one trend that you think that it's worth it for couples to consider. Yeah, yeah, go
I
ahead,
mean,
Jules.
it's not necessarily a trend in terms of aesthetics, but I think a trend that I see a lot of planners offering is even if they're not booking a full planner, just like the hourly consulting to start. It is something that when I do a discovery call for a venue with a couple, I strongly suggest it just to get them started off on the right foot. And so I think, planners diverse, like I think we all, sort of during COVID, like diversify, like how we offer our services. And I think it's like, I'm like, even if you can't afford a full planner, like book somebody for 5 hours at the start and like work on your budget. Like, like we all talk to each other. We have relationships with each other that we know, like, oh, like, well, I know this florist. Usually their minimum is this, but if you're working with me, like we can work, we'll work around that. Or, this, I have planner friends who like only do full planning, but if it's a date, off peak date, whatever, like they would consider partial or, those kind of things that I think, you're not going to get it on Reddit. You're certainly not going to get it on Zola or the Knot, and it's just that personal connection. I think, again, there's just so much misinformation out there and couples just, I talk to so many couples that will start planning their wedding and they feel so overwhelmed and they get sticker shock because they're all told that they can have a wedding for $30,000. And then they start looking at New York vendors and they're like, ah, and then they stop. And then 6 months later, they're like, hi, me again. We're more prepared this time. And so I think that can be really helpful. And then, I mean, it's like, this is supposed to be a fun, exciting time, not stressful and discouraging. And so, we're here to help you. And nobody, nobody's gonna poo-poo. Like you can have a $30,000 wedding, but it's gonna look very different than a $200,000 wedding. So like, again, those priorities and figuring that out. But I think if you can at least do some hours with a planner to start, I think is essential.
Awesome. Anybody else trends? Either something that you think is worth it or maybe something that you feel that couples can skip.
Yeah, what I'm actually starting to see a lot of, we had a few for 2025, and it's a lot of conversation, I think, for clients in 2026. I'm seeing a lot of more clients wanting to do more intimate ceremonies. So they'll have a small gathering either the day before or earlier that day, and then they'll save like the big gathering for the party later on. So I'm seeing more of that, more of those just, immediate family, parents, siblings, partners, and that's it for the ceremony. And then the larger group will come later. So I'm seeing a lot of that. So I'm feeling like that's going to pick up a lot more for 2026.
Yeah. And as an officiant, I'm seeing that too. I just got an inquiry today for that exact thing, which is interesting to see. Anything else in terms of trends, either worth it or
Piggybacking,
not worth it?
piggybacking on that, completely agree. These smaller ceremonies are really, really great. And it's also, as a photographer, it's really helpful to know. And going back to the people who don't feel super comfortable being the center of attention or in front of the camera, having that very vulnerable moment shared with possibly 100, 200 people can be overwhelming. So it's really great if you want to calm things down. The other trend that I'm seeing that I love and could not recommend more is more and more folks hiring their photographer to or videographer or anyone documenting the day, even like makeup artists, to also do work on the either rehearsal dinner or welcome party. I can speak for myself as a photographer that it's really, really helpful, A, to kind of break the ice with everybody. Sometimes folks want to do an engagement session, which is also fantastic to really get to know the couple or marriers, but then photographing the earlier events in the wedding celebration, then I get to see where you are at in a headspace for everything. Then also you get to kind of understand the dynamics between people already. Folks will recognize you the next day and feel a lot more comfortable with you. And then you get this broader mix of this celebration. It's also really helpful because then you immediately have like a rapport with the VIPs in the folks' lives. So then you know, like, oh, you want to prioritize documenting everyone, but this is their bestie. And you want to make sure that they have moments with them. It's very, very helpful. Especially if people are shifting away, I think, from photographing a lot of time with like the getting ready part of the day, which is really fabulous and fun. I love sparkly details, but that is not necessarily the thing people want to remember the most. And having those more celebratory times documented, I think, is a great investment.
Lovely. One more lightning round question for each of you. Jules, we're going to start with you. What is one word to describe your style as a professional?
Oh, geez. Um, Hands-on.
Awesome. Justin, how about you?
Ooh, I often say I'm a clown with a camera, but that's 4 words. So I will just say effervescent.
Ooh, Sheavonne.
I'm going to go with what clients usually kind of throw back at me. Good vibes, good energy. Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. More than one word. It's all good. I don't see any additional questions, so I'm glad that we're all good here. Our beautiful panelists, any final words to share?
I
I
would say,
mean,
oh, God, go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, from just as I tell all couples in consultations, when I'm prospecting, when I'm actually working with couples, really lean into each other. Lean into, like I said, the experience that you want to have. Don't think too much about tradition or how something is supposed to go, or like Sheavonne, how do we do this? How do we do that? My response is always going to be, how do you want to do it? So definitely lean into the personal. There are no rules. There really, except for venue rules, Jules. I'm sorry, but
Listen, I always say, I'm like, you tell me what you want to do, and as long as we're not breaking the law or tearing down a wall, we'll figure out a way to do it.
we'll
So
figure it
But
out, right? We'll
seriously,
figure it out. But
no more
no rules.
sparklers though, folks, please.
no, no sparklers,
Oh
no
no, no
glitter.
sparklers, no sparklers, no, no, no. But yeah, just definitely no rules. Think about planning your wedding with no rules in mind.
Jules, did you share yours or do you still need?
No, I was just gonna say, trust your professionals so you can really enjoy, like work with people that you feel comfortable with. Let us take care of, obviously we can't take care of any family stress, but logistics, like we've seen this all a million times. We're here, like when couples say, "What's the worst thing that can happen on my wedding day?" I say, "You'll never know because we're all figuring it out behind the scenes." And so, like, just, trust the people that you hire
Hmm,
because, you know, and always have a plan B and C for weather.
indeed, indeed. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and a huge thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing their expertise. Sheavonne Harris, Jules Miller, Justin McCallum. We hope that we're leaving you all with some clarity, some inspiration, and maybe a few insider tips to make your wedding planners smoother and more joyful. So, from all of us at Ever After Academy, congratulations on your engagement. And here's to building your happily ever after. Take care, everybody.